The US Congress has passed another $61 billion in funding to Ukraine, but there is one big question that remains. Will this actually help Ukraine win the war, or are we simply delaying an inevitable Russian victory? The $61 billion aid package is significant for many reasons. First, this is the single largest aid package Ukraine has received since the war with Russia began. The last time Congress authorized Ukraine funding was in December 2022, nearly 16 months ago, when the Democrats still controlled both the House and the Senate. But Republicans have been blocking the sending of additional money to Ukraine unless the US government would also commit more money to Israel, Taiwan, and interesting enough, a bill to help ban TikTok inside the United States. Now, the decision couldn't have come at a more crucial time for Ukraine. On the battlefield, Ukraine doesn't have the manpower, artillery, or air defense needed to fend off Russian advances. And as this tweet from the Institute for the Study of War reveals, the Russians are pressing their advantage and advancing slowly but steadily on several sectors of the front. Since the beginning of this year, Russian forces have seized over 360 square kilometers, an area the size of Detroit. Now, the influx of American aid will have an immediate impact on the battlefield, helping the Ukrainians close the massive artillery gap with Russia. Just how big is Ukraine's gap with Russia? Last month, Ukrainian President Zelensky sat down for an interview with PBS and revealed the shocking truth. Today, our artillery shell ratio is 1 to 10. Can we hold our ground? No. In any case, with these statistics, they will be pushing us back every day. To defend 100% of what's in our control, we would need to go from 1 to, comparing numbers, 10 to 10. But it gets much worse for Ukraine, because the sad reality is that while the lack of weapons is a major concern, it doesn't come close to the real issue Ukraine is facing now, which is a lack of manpower. There is no one more qualified to speak on the war in Ukraine than American political scientist John Mearsheimer, who reveals this shocking truth.
Biggest problem that the Ukrainians face is actually not the lack of weaponry. That is a major league problem. I don't want to underestimate that. But the biggest problem is manpower. They simply don't have enough troops. They have no way of mobilizing enough troops to compensate for the imbalance that now exists in the fact that their troops have been run ragged over the past 2+ years. So it's no surprise that we see lots of evidence of desertion by Ukrainian forces on the front lines. And we see lots of evidence of Ukrainian forces basically crumbling in the face of the Russian offensive. And it's hard to imagine, over the next couple months, how the Russians don't end up conquering a lot more territory.
The Ukrainian government has been doing everything in its power to recruit more soldiers for this war. Despite public opposition, Zelensky lowered the mobilization age of soldiers from 27 down to 25 years old. He reduced service exemptions and extended the terms of service of many of the remaining soldiers who have already been in battle for several years now. But all these measures will honestly only make a small difference. Even with a fresh new $61 billion of support, this won't be enough to turn the tide of war for two main reasons. The first is that this is likely the last aid package the US government approves in 2024 and possibly ever if Trump wins the US election in November or Republicans take control of the Senate. Even if Biden wins a second term, there's little domestic support for America to continue providing $60 billion a year every year until Russia runs out of men and accepts defeat. In fact, the complete opposite is true. Russia has never felt more confident about the probability this war ends in a victory for them. Even major Western media outlets like Bloomberg are reporting that Putin isn't scared of Ukraine's $61 billion boost, largely because this war has become a war of attrition, and Russia has more manpower, artillery, and stamina to outlast the Ukrainians until a victory is declared. But what does that victory actually look like? Realistically, Ukraine will be de facto partitioned this year. This is an unacceptable position for Ukraine in the West, but one that will become a reality. At a minimum, Russia will control about 18% of Ukraine's territory, including the territory it now occupies on the Crimean Peninsula and the 4 Russian majority regions in eastern Ukraine that have been at the center of this war since it began in 2014. But the second reason this $61 billion aid package won't save the Ukrainians is a large portion of that money will actually stay right here in the United States and benefit the military-industrial complex. Once again, here is Professor John Mearsheimer, who reveals the truth.
$28 billion of the $61 billion, that's almost half of the package, goes to building weapons that will replenish the stocks that have been run down in the United States in the process of supplying the Ukrainians in the past. Just think about that. 28 of the $61 billion is not going to produce weapons that go to Ukraine. They're going to be weapons that stay here because we've given so many weapons to the Ukrainians already. And they not only need weaponry, of course, they need manpower, and we can do nothing to provide manpower. So they're basically screwed.
Last month, Politico Europe sent a field reporter, Jamie Detmer, to the front lines of Ukraine to assess the situation. He came back and published a blunt report entitled "Ukraine is Heading for Defeat." He went on to reveal the truth that has now become impossible to ignore and one that we must now accept. The picture that emerged from dozens of interviews with political leaders, military officers, and ordinary citizens was one of a country slipping towards disaster, even as President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine is trying to find a way not to retreat. Military officers privately accept that more losses are inevitable this summer. The only question is how bad they will be. Vladimir Putin has arguably never been closer to his goal. Everyone, that was the news portion of today's video. But if you're a fellow investor, I want you to pay attention to this next segment as I follow up on a company I profiled just yesterday, but one that I want to highlight again, as I believe it has some amazing potential. Yesterday, we profiled the company American Aries, whose revolutionary new product helps reduce electromagnetic fields, EMFs, from your devices that can be harmful to your health. I want to share with you some recent updates to the company and also profile its new listing on the American Stock Exchange. Once again, the company's name is American Aries and it trades under the stock symbol AAIRF. At the heart of all Aries products is a proprietary, silicon-based Aries resonator chip designed to reduce the negative health effects of EMFs. It features a resonator antenna that captures the charge from electromagnetic fields. Now, the company just released this press announcement with the impressive news of a record Q4 and annual 2023 order volume. The Aries team achieved a record order volume of $3.7 million. The increased order volume represents strong growth year on year, up $1.3 million for a 53% growth. The company also drove an impressive order volume increase of 79% year on year to $10.4 million, which is up 4x the 2021 sales when Josh Bruni, the CEO, joined the company. I also love this quote from American Aries CEO Josh Bruni himself, who sums things up perfectly. This success builds on the hard work and sustainable growth we've demonstrated over the past 2 years. These financial results are just the latest proof that we have what it takes to reach and convert the massive and growing consumer market focused on well-being and EMF protection. Another important news release I want to share with you is that as of last week, American Aries is now also trading in the US markets under the symbol AAIRF. Now, the company will continue to be listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange, but with this new US listing, it will make the company much more accessible to investors around the world, helping improve its reach to more investors. And speaking of reach, Aries Tech is also working with some elite level athletes and influencers to help expand the brand to a wider customer base. The company launched a new #Aries Athletes program with UFC star Macy Barber and are also partnering with English comedian, actor, and influencer Russell Brand to generate value for shareholders and improve stock liquidity. Finally, American Aries CEO Josh Bruni appeared on the Health Uncensored with Dr. Drew TV show just yesterday, Sunday, May 5th. Now, the show is a part of a program focused on breakthroughs in medical technology. Overall, I think there is quite a bullish case for the company American Aries. The first reason is that reducing your exposure to harmful EMFs is something that we should all be concerned about in today's day and age because we're constantly surrounded by digital devices. But I also love the direction the company is moving and the excellent leadership from the CEO and his team that has a proven track record of delivering great results. I'm going to help you learn more about this company by dropping the investor presentation, website, and stock symbols down in the description below. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. But once again, I want to thank you all for your amazing support, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next video soon.